All right, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Dorn, and we've got a special guest tonight. Graham and I will be flying out to Omaha for the mock selection committee this weekend. We hope you will all watch it on YouTube all weekend long. Cancel all your plans and watch us just nerd the hell out. But the mastermind of the mock selection committee, Tim Krueger, aka TK Brackets, aka Blue Jay Banter Tim. What other pseudonyms do you have, Tim?
Well, I wouldn't know. I would be a little strong to call me a mastermind of anything. So I would chill that a little bit. But you guys have helped me a lot with it. So, but
Well,
yeah,
you're the
I'm really excited about it. It's we're taking it to like another level now, being together, and I think enhanced production value as well. So we put a lot of work in. The producers put a lot of work into it. He's got some pretty cool stuff lined up. So, and I think we do for everybody as well. So it'll be a lot of fun.
all right. So not mastermind, but you're the architect. I don't want to give you too many IQ points or anything like that. But so this will be the third year, right? And
Correct.
Graham, this will be your second year on the committee. Although technically, I guess you were only an alternate last year. Now you're a full timer. Uh,
Well,
I mean,
he did a lot of stuff last year though, because
oh
we
yeah,
had
he did
one
a lot.
member that was in and out, so he
Yep.
he pretty much did it.
Yeah. So Tim, you've wanted to do this like since we were on the mock, the actual mock with the NCAA. I think it was 2015,
Yeah,
14, somewhere in that
15.
range. But
Yeah.
and then COVID happened. We finally figured out that Zoom is a thing. And I mean, talk about what made you want to do this really, and what have you gotten out of it so far in the now third year that we're working on it?
Yeah, I just thought, when we went to the mock, I mean, it was just, it was like I told people, it's like you and I were like we're going to Graceland, man. I mean,
Yep.
this was it. Like, you're in there with some of the top sports writers in the country and top media people in the country, and we probably knew a lot more about bracketology than they did, but still, it was fun. It was fun to see all the tools. I was on a Zoom this morning showing them how to bracket a group that does bracketology, and I was telling them about the tool that they had, and we got all done, and we said, "Hey, excuse me, could we have that tool?" And they go, "No, you cannot have that tool."
Yep.
Because it would all make our bracketology lives so much easier if we had a tool where you just typed in a name and it told you they can't go there, they can't go to this site, they can't go to that. I mean, it's just done for you, so it's awesome. But no, so when we did that, I mean, it was just a blast, obviously, and we had such a great time. And I just thought, man, it would be cool if we could get group together, and do this. And you're right, COVID happened, and then we learned about Zoom, so we kind of took the opportunity. The first year was a little bit, I think we grew on it the second year quite a bit, and now this year, obviously, we're taking a big leap, and hopefully, this will blow up into bigger things where somebody will maybe say, "Hey, we'd like you guys to do this on this platform or what have you." So that's kind of my goal. It's not something that I'm going to be upset if it never happens because I'm having a good time doing this. However, this was a lot of work putting this together.
Yeah.
and and getting your board ready, Kerry. Let me tell you, it's like
I,
something I used to have to do at work with like huddle boards with the tape and everything. And I thought, oh, this will be slick. I know how to do this. And man, I forgot how much work this was. But yeah, it's gonna be really nice. We got all the cameras set up today to be able to, everything working great. So man, he got a sweet logo incorporating our logo, and then with a little bit of info of where you can watch it, what's going on, and so forth on the background behind us. It looks pretty nice.
I'm I'm very excited for this weekend. I'm looking forward to being Vanna Whiteboard. Graham, aside from because Shelby was on the committee with you in whatever 2012, 2013,
2012. Yep.
who else, like what famous people were there for you? Because we had Mark Titus, we had Dana
Mike Tirico.
Jacobson, Mike Tirico.
Well, Dana Jacobson just came in like the last day and she just kind of observed. Like
Yeah,
she
she
was,
wasn't really on the
but
committee,
we
I don't
had
think.
Titus was actually our co-committee chair, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And Stuart Mandel was
that's right,
the other
Stuart.
chair,
Who was
and
your
Malcolm.
Who was your partner? I was with Teddy Greenstein from
Yes.
Chicago
My partner
Sun-Times.
was boy, he works for the Golf Channel on the radio. Can't think of his name. He did a lot of Horizon stuff.
Yeah, I would remember it the second I heard it too.
Yeah.
Oh well. Graham, who was on your committee?
Shelby was it as far as media people go. But we did have can't even remember some of these names. David Warlock was obviously there,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to remember who was running the basketball committee stuff at the time. I don't even remember. It's been a number of years at this point, but I remember he was with the Indianapolis Star after that. Can't even remember his name at this point, but yeah, it's been we were lucky we had Stan Morrison there, who was on the committee the previous year. He had just gotten off of his stint on the committee, and he was with us the whole time. And I remember because we did it in real time with the actual committee, so we actually talked to uh, trying to remember who the AD was at UConn at the time. I don't think it wasn't Jeff Long. Maybe was it Jeff Long? I don't remember, but we talked to the Yukon committee chairman as they were doing their actual discussions. We talked to them too. Did a live Skype call with them and kind of went over. He was asking us where the number one seed line was, and we were giving our feedback in real time at the same time they were talking about it. So that was all pretty cool. I think Stan was really impressed. I remember watching his face as the actual bracket was revealed, and I remember him just like looking at it and being I could tell he was like, dang, these guys actually kind of nailed this. Like, I'm surprised how close they are to the real thing. So that was a really good experience. And that was the first time I met Shelby.
So you didn't do it the actual week of the selection process, right?
Oh, no, we did it. We did it the same during the actual week
Oh,
of the selection
wow.
process. Yeah. So it was pretty cool because we were doing it simultaneously with the real
Yeah.
committee. They were out in Indianapolis and we were down in Atlanta. So I don't remember when Warlock moved up, but he must have moved up after that because Warlock was in the room with us.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had, I mean, Scott Barnes, I think he was the committee chair at that time. He was there.
Joe Castiglione was there from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I remember
Oh,
that
yeah. I
because
talked
I
to
talked
Joe
to
for a
him.
little while. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott
Scott
this
Barnes from
Barnes is
Utah State,
post
I believe.
for Utah State. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was an experience for sure. And then me losing my driver's license on the way there and not getting to go out to the bar with Tarico and everything. That was disappointing.
Oh, you weren't with us that night?
No, I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
to this day I still get carded if I go to a bar. So like 10 years ago, I would have gotten carded and I would have had to leave in shame because I lost my license at the airport. So what Graham, from doing it last year, what did you get out of the mock committee thing that maybe you weren't expecting? Whether it was just seeing other people's opinions or, having all the arguments that happened, and we mostly kept it civil, but
Yeah, I'd actually say that was kind of the biggest takeaway for me was because I was doing vote tabulation. So I could see where people were voting, and the votes didn't always match the discussion. That was the interesting part for me, is that sometimes you would have people who would come out pretty strongly in one direction, and then maybe you'd have other people that would kind of win a little bit along with it during the discussion. But when it came time to vote, that's not how they cast their vote. So I think that was really informative because that's probably a lot like it's like in the committee room. You probably have some strong voices, and these are your colleagues. You don't want to, you may disagree, but you're not necessarily going to go to bat unless it's some team that you feel very strongly for, because at the end of the day, you get a vote anyways. So I think that was a big takeaway for me, is that some of the votes didn't always go the way that you'd think the discussion was leading it towards.
yeah. So Tim, Graham, and I were texting earlier and saying, like, neither of us has done an updated seed list in a little while. We're going to try and go into it almost, with more of an open mind. How do you approach it the same way? Or are you going to come into this like with your seed list and we're going to have to talk you off it, like prying from your cold dead hands?
No, I've actually been so busy. I did a bracket for Tuesday. They did it Monday night. I think it was like 2 in the morning when I got done. So who knows what the heck I had any seed long. But so and the way this year's gone, as you guys know, I mean, everything changes nightly. Like teams move up and down. I've never seen it like this before. So I think it is better just to come in. I know I'm curious, like when we get down to the 10s and 11s, like how's it all going to shake out? Like I know we're all going to have difference of opinion. Because I've seen everybody's bracket. Everybody's got somebody different in there. Um, and then how much credit are we going to give to the people who are on the outside looking in? Some of them, climbing, some of them dropping, and so forth. I mean, I don't think we'll spend a whole heck of a lot of time maybe on the top line, but the two maybe a little bit, then more on the three and more on the four, and then we get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to be. I could see somebody arguing for somebody at a 5, and that next person saying no, I think they should be a 9. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. So, um, although I would say, I was when we did the initial ballot, and I should explain to everybody. So yeah, we'll explain this tomorrow too. We use the NCAA committee's old version where it was up to 36 teams. They just made a change this year where it was up to 24. They kind of, frankly, kept that change a little bit quiet. So, first of all, if you can find the principles and procedures, which Kerry eventually did.
That was an adventure, man. It took me like half an hour just to find the freaking document.
Yeah. You would think they would be they used to be readily available when I'd go on .org, but now, man, it's hard to find. But at any rate, we did the 36. We did that because, we're cramming 5, 6 days worth into 2.5 days. So we felt there's really not a lot of difference, putting that next line of teams in. And we did have another vote later after the list was compiled. We had 29 in. We voted one team out to be going back into consideration. That team's going to probably get in the field, but we just thought, hey, it's worth another look. That team could end up being close to the cut line, and we don't want to say, oh, they're in, and then look back and go, oh, wait, they're not. But I'll just give everybody a little sneak. I won't list off the teams, but we had 28 make the field in the first vote. So, and there was a couple here and there. There was a couple teams I remember had 4 votes, and because we have a 6-man committee, you have to get 5. And there was a couple that had 4 votes and just didn't get that last vote to get in. But for the most part, we agreed up and down. So I was actually a little surprised that the number was as high as it was.
Yeah, I feel like if anybody's getting 4 votes at this point, even on a 36 team ballot, right? Like they're probably going to end up getting in by the end of the week anyway,
Right.
barring unless they suffer some horrible loss. But I'm going to be very interested, and I think you already kind of alluded to that, where you're saying, some teams could be a 5, some could be a 9. Graham, if you want to chime in on Florida right now in that regard, that's the team we've been talking about. It could be all over the place, but I think it'll be very interesting to see seeding more so than selection, because I feel like the actual, at-large candidates, there really aren't that many teams on the outside even worth considering at this
Right.
point. It's kind of a weird cut line where we kind of have a line in the sand, but even those like last 4 in, some people might feel like they're 8 seeds and other people might have them as 11s. So it'll be very interesting seeding, I think, more so than selection.
I could even see more extreme than that. I would say there's some teams that, like for Colorado State, for example, I could see some people saying, I think they've had a 7 seed quality season, and others saying, I think they should be headed to Dayton. Like this team is right on the edge of the bubble. Like we could be looking at bigger seed discrepancies than most years. I think it's just been that kind of a season. We've had such odd profiles all year in a way that we've never really seen before. So I think you mentioned Florida, Kerry. I'm interested in them. I'm interested in a whole host of Big 12 teams because I think they could be all over the place. And Dayton is another team that's really on my mind. And Auburn, I think Auburn is going to merit some really interesting discussion.
Yeah, Auburn's messy, right? 1-7 against quad 1, undefeated outside of quad 1. They got like a plus 25 average scoring margin outside of quad 1, but outside of that one win over Alabama and a very convincing win over South Carolina when everybody was doing their top 16 picks. But Man, they do not have much, but we almost have to put them as a 3 because they're top 5 in all the metrics. It's going to be a weird discussion for sure.
I think the Big East too. How do you deal with a conference that has multiple teams that appear to be elite this year, and then a whole host of other teams that don't appear to be elite? How do you deal with that? I think that'll be really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think last night's results kind of showed that, right? You have two teams that I think most people had just barely in the field, or maybe one of them just barely out and so forth, and both of them just got absolutely blown out last night. So then you're like, okay, now do we have to take another look at these?
Yeah. Problem is,
Um,
like, like Texas A&M lost, Butler lost. It's like you
yeah,
can't even scrub them out by promoting any other teams because everybody
right,
lost last
yeah.
night. That was wild. All of a sudden, James Madison. I'm looking at them a lot harder for a bid now. It's been a weird time of year, and we are doing this a week earlier than previous years. I think we should make sure to throw that out there. So we do have, a little bit less of the full picture than we have in the past. I assume we're gonna get together again in some form, have at least an hour long conversation selection weekend and update it because we got to at
That'll be
least try
fun.
and be
Well,
accurate.
after being two, the other years it's been 1 week out, so we really haven't made a whole heck of a lot of changes. But
Yeah.
yeah, 2 weeks out, it's going to be crazy. Yeah, I'll have to be pried away from Madison Square Garden to sit in with you guys.
No, who knows what I'll be doing? I'll just be sleep deprived and working on all my
Yeah,
pre-selection
but
Sunday
you did mention,
madness.
Kerry, I think a good point. Like when we exactly we're doing a week earlier, and I think when all of us did that, up to 36, we all kind of had, I think we all had different mindsets, right? Like some people were like, well, this team's not going to, I don't know that this team should be said they're in yet, thinking that we're talking about Selection Sunday, when
Yeah.
actually our Selection Sunday is basically the end of Saturday, what we're doing. So, we kind of had to caution people to say, hey, look, there's not a whole lot that they're going to help on their resume for what we're doing. But I do think I moved it up a week for a couple of reasons. One was, I do think like we get a little more run out of it. It seemed like when we would do it, okay, there it is. Well, now we got conference tournaments and we're going to find out in 6 days anyway. This way,
Yep.
we're a little bit further out, kind of a little more like to reveal things a little bit further out. We kind of get it. You get a sense of maybe where everybody thinks teams are. And the other reason was Creighton had a home game, so I wanted to take you guys to a basketball. So, which is
Oh no.
turned
How
out to be
dare
it's
you?
turning out to be a great match,
Yeah,
top
what
12 match.
I saw Kolick has an oblique injury or something. Is he possibly going to miss the game? I don't know. There was also something on Twitter that he like failed his midterms, and that was bullshit.
that guy
That
that
was
guy has done
whole.
that all year, and I can't believe the number of people that buy it. And that
Yeah.
some compliance officer jumped on, and she actually was part of the Creighton administration at one time. I guess someone told
Oh
me
yeah.
last night, and she jumped on to defend him. Which this guy needs to knock it off. It's just silly, but he's done it all year. I can't believe people still believe it when they see that stuff. But
Yeah, that got retweeted into my feed like 3 times yesterday. I was like, what in the world is going on here? Like I had to actually look at his profile. I was like, okay, this guy's full of crap. Okay.
did he have to leave the game last night?
I'm not sure because it was a blowout. I stopped watching. I saw he got hit in the face and had a cut, and then after the game they said he's got
Yeah.
an oblique injury. It's just he goes through a lot, that's for sure.
Well, gee, I'll tell you what. There's a lot of people here in Omaha that probably wouldn't be too sorry to see
Yeah,
him
right.
not play.
Graham, you got anything to add? Any questions? I had a question. It's slipping my mind. I'll let you jump in real quick.
Not anything to add to that discussion per se, but I'm just really interested to see some of this discussion that we have over the weekend as far as the end of the one line. Because Tim, earlier you were talking about maybe not a whole lot of discussion about the one line. I think that fourth overall position, I could see that becoming a conversation. I feel like I'm kind of firmly entrenched on who I like there, and I don't think everybody else on the committee feels that way. So I feel like we could really have some good discussion over fourth overall.
I am definitely not firmly entrenched on fourth overall. I could go Well, I guess Kansas is out of the conversation now, but heading into the week, I was like four-way toss-up, really. Like even Tennessee, I think is pretty close. Arizona certainly still in the mix. North Carolina. So yeah, it's going to be there's absolutely no debate. It's Purdue, Houston, UConn in some order at 1, 2, and 3. But we'll see about 4, and it's only going to get crazier from there because that's when you start bringing Iowa State's non-conference schedule and Alabama's poor Q1 record and Duke in general into the conversation.
Yeah, I could see like a little discussion around 4, but to me, there's two trains of thought there, like the best team, and then who, based on their resume metrics, record, everything, who that team is. I would think I would probably, as a betting man, I would probably think that North Carolina and Tennessee would be favored over Arizona if they played on a neutral site. But yet Arizona's probably going to win the day for that number 4 right now, just because of they really haven't lost except for the Washington State game. But I don't know. Yeah, I kind of like you, Kerry. I'm open to listen. And I think when you mentioned early on, like what Graham got out of it, I think I tell people two things. One, we have a wide variety of people who value different things. I think that's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
Dave has the effective record, and Graham, now you've got a new one, right? Effective. No, what's it? Is it effective wins or
Elite wins? What do you
elite
call
wins
them?
or something?
Yeah.
And then we always tease Rocco about his pieces of gold for those road wins, and uh, Shelby likes to talk about, matchups and how, teams have fared throughout the season and so forth. And I like to look at like top 25 wins, and Kerry like to look at a lot of the metrics, the KPI especially. So we all have something different to bring to the table. And I think that's more of the fascinating thing, where like last year I went, oh, okay. I probably didn't look at it that way, but that is an interesting take, you know?
Yeah, I think even in the reveal process 2 weeks ago, when you brought up San Diego State, and it was really just the vote from Rocco, where you're like, I want to hear more about San Diego State, and that discussion happened. I was not looking at San Diego State that way the whole year, and it's not that I hadn't looked at their profile. I was looking at their profile all the time. It just never sat with me that way. So I think that's like you mentioned, Tim, that's a really cool part of this thing is even when we're all looking at the same information and we're all digesting it repeatedly, just something can be a little bit different and a slight bias. Again, elite wins, that's my bias. I know it is. I like really strong strength schedules and I like teams that excel against those schedules. But not everybody sees it the exact same way. Even when they're talking about what is a quality win. Some people, it's just
Yeah.
totally
Yep.
numerical. Other people, it's way beyond the numbers. So just very interesting to get a group that looks at this in different perspectives.
Yeah. Everybody's got their thing, and I'm the wild card because not only do I like kind of look at everything, but I'm gonna drink a lot of Guinness and I'll be a different person by the end of the night.
I told him to stock up for you, Kerry.
I gotta take out a second mortgage for the weekend.
Actually, the guy I was with in there before the game last night ordered Guinness, and he goes, "Well, do you have Guinness?" I go, "I can answer that question for you."
See, that's why you're the architect. You might not be a
Yeah,
mastermind, but you got everything covered. You got
I know. Kerry and I,
your
we
ducks
we
in a
talked
row.
about this last year, too. I think it's made me better.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's not like last year I just took everything from what we did and changed my bracket to everything. But it made me, like Graham said, you look at things just a little bit differently, and I think that just helps you. Maybe not, you're just set. Well, this is the way it is. I've looked at these 25 times, and this is the way it is. Now you take maybe a little bit different angle at it, and maybe pick up that extra payment point by a couple points by moving this team here and this
Yep.
team there.
Yeah.
Something that was
100%.
really interesting for me with the vote tabulation is I would see a couple teams that like really I would see just a couple votes that were off and you'd see maybe two people might vote like hey we don't like this team and just seeing that was helpful to me because maybe the conversation wasn't so strong regarding that team but seeing the way that people actually put pen to paper obviously it was electronic but when it comes time to vote and you see a couple of those teams are just a little bit off in some people's minds, that makes you look at them a second time. It's like, I know I've seen you so often, but these people really don't like this team. What do they hate about this team? Because if two people on our committee are thinking it, and a committee of 12, people are thinking that. It's not
Yeah,
just one or
right,
two. It's
right,
more than that.
right. And I just want to mention too, like kind of circling back to what we're doing this weekend with the mock selection committee. We have several new things, but I want to mention two. Number one, each night, Friday and Saturday night, we're going to have kind of like a happy hour at about 9 o'clock or so. And we're going to take a few minutes away from the discussion and talk about some different topics. And we've got about 3 or 4 lined up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. One will be a lot of fun, I think. Maybe some of the more who are the more rabid fans when you release your bracket, who comes at you the hardest, So I think that'll be a nice discussion. And then we've got a lot of other things to discuss too. Another great thing this year is a real improvement for us too. I know when people go back, they probably don't want to watch necessarily want to watch a 4-hour session to find X, Y, and Z. Our social media person, Meg, is going to be tweeting out, okay, right now, hey, U8 teams right now, they're discussing you right now. Like tomorrow afternoon when we kick it off at 2 p.m. Central. Shortly after that, we'll be selecting 8 teams to get into the field and go and talking about them all. So, as we get into tomorrow night, she'll be tweeting out, hey, they're talking about the 1 seeds right now. Boom, boom, boom. So people can go to it's at the 1 minute mark or the 10-minute mark or the 2-hour mark, whatever it is. And they'll be able to just follow, if they just follow along on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they'll be able to see that and just immediately go to that part of, if they missed it, go to that part of the recording and watch what they're, how we talked about their team.
And that has definitely been our weakness thus far, right? Like we can talk about SOR all day long, but none of us really know shit about SEO and how to get things out on social media. And like I think last year, like we had like Dave was supposed to be texting out or tweeting out like, all right, we're covering these teams now. And then like 3 hours would pass, be like, oh man, we should probably tweet something. And we would forget about the comments and the chat and all this stuff. Like we know our stuff. We're just not very good at at
Yeah,
self-promotion.
we'll turn the chat over to Graham this year. He'll hand out like a star. Because we're gonna have Dave's gonna take care of the Warren Nolan
Yep.
system. So we've kind of worked through that little pop-up too. It is,
Oh God.
I guess I just never noticed that. I must have like refreshed or something that it kept coming up, because when we didn't refresh, it never came up. So he's got that figured out. By the way, Warren did answer me. It fell into the junk mail system. I found it. But he just said there's no way for him to turn it off. He could do an extra slide for us type thing on a one-time basis for the weekend. And I said, I think we got it,
We'll just go easy on the refresh button. But it's getting out of control, man. I spend like half of my life on either, Warren Nolan or Sports Reference or Ken Palm, Baseball Reference, whatever. Ken Palm has no ads. It's awesome. It's because I'm paying $20 a year for it. Everything else is just constant pop-ups and autoplay videos. I'm just going insane with all this. I'm surprised my computers last 2 years before I have to throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
All right, Graham, you got anything else to add? Or are we going to let Tim hit the road and finish all the prep work? I got to go pack. We're leaving
I
in like
know.
9 hours. I
get
haven't even
ready to
packed
go.
yet.
Oh, I was gonna give you guys a little weather report today, and I haven't even time to do that. So it's probably a little late now. Everybody's got most of their packing done, but
I've
very
I've done
windy
nothing.
today.
And
It's
hope.
gonna be very windy again tomorrow, but it's gonna be nice. High. Oh, they've lowered a little bit. It's high of 59.
Hey, it was like 30 here today. I'll take 59.
But sunshine, it's sunshine. Saturday though is going to be beautiful. It's going to be 70 degrees. So,
And we're going to be spending the whole weekend in a bar. What do we care about the weather?
yeah. Well, I thought tomorrow, when you guys go have lunch while I'm finishing
Yeah.
up some things. So, anyway, looks like you have nice flying weather on Sunday too, 74 degrees. So there you go.
Nice. All right.
We'll
Well,
see you tomorrow.
yeah. Tim,
Yeah,
thanks so
really
much for
looking forward
joining
to it,
us.
guys.
please, if you watch this and you enjoy this, you will absolutely enjoy the mock committee tomorrow, Saturday, and a little bit on Sunday morning when we're finishing up. But hope you're able to check it out. Thanks again, Tim, for joining us, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.